Hello everyone, back tuning into today's video. We're going to have a look at the weather for the next week to 10 days. For today's video, that's going to take us to around the 10th of October. And we'll be able to extend out beyond that for the extended GFS and ECMS onwards over to around a couple of weeks. We'll also have a look at CFSV2 for the next month as well, and that's pretty much a full October look ahead. We're going to begin though with what's happening in the tropical Atlantic in terms of Hurricane Lorenzo. Now, Lorenzo did pop up to Category 5 status briefly overnight, Saturday night into Sunday morning. It's down to a Category 2 now. It's lost major Category hurricane status, but it's still a very significant storm, and it's on its way to the Azores. I mean, it's going to push northwards in the second half of the week. It could well have impacts for our weather, and we're going to go through the latest model data to see what those models are showing for the end of the week in terms of this area of low pressure that will contain the remains of Hurricane Lorenzo. A lot of uncertainty about the track of this low pressure, so more about that later in the video. Just say that over the weekend, of course, we released the 5th Winter 2019-2020 update. Seemed to go down quite well, so have a look at that if you haven't yet done so. It's a real epic, runs to around an hour, and also we did a live chat yesterday afternoon on the Gas Service YouTube channel, taking as many questions as we could about that winter update. Also, Lorenzo came up in that live chat quite a lot as well, so you can replay that back, have a listen whenever you would like to do that. It's on the Gas Service YouTube channel, and it's also embedded into the homepage at gasservice.com as well. Right then, so let's get on with it. We're going to start off, as I say, with the tropical Atlantic. So this is now Category 2. Hurricane Lorenzo just here. As I say, it did go to Category 5 unexpectedly over the weekend, but it's now down to Category 2. There's still a very significant storm though, giving maximum sustained winds of 105 miles per hour with minimum central pressure of 957 millibars, and it's moving northeastwards at 13 miles per hour. Now if we click on that and then go here, we can see that the current position of Lorenzo is where we've got this orange area just there. And in the next couple of days, Lorenzo is going to push northeastwards in that sort of direction, reaching the Azores around the middle part of the week, probably down to Category 1 hurricane by then. And then at the end of the week, so that's the forecast position somewhere around there on Thursday. This is the forecast position on Friday. Post-tropical by this time, so we're not going to get Hurricane Lorenzo, we're going to get a post-tropical area of low pressure that will contain the remains of what was Hurricane Lorenzo. And depending on the exact position of this area of low pressure, we could get a real battering from it. It could give us some very severe gales if it does something a bit like that, or something a bit like that, or possibly something a bit like that. Alternatively, there's a bigger area of low pressure but sitting to the south of Greenland, so alternatively could do something a bit like that and sort of get absorbed into the larger area of low pressure. It may even go further southwards, do something like that. So there's a wide margin of error with the exact track of this area of low pressure. It's causing all sorts of problems for the professionals to try and pin down where this area of low pressure is going. All I can advise is that you just keep a close watch on the forecast for the end of the week. Excuse me, keep an eye on the severe weather warnings page from the UK Met Office, and we'll just see how things progress through the course of the week. But potentially we could get some very windy and wet weather from this area of low pressure. At the moment, it is only potential. If we go to discussion, we can see that at the moment, as I say, giving maximum sustained winds of 105 miles per hour. It's going to gradually weaken over the next sort of couple of days, going down to 90 miles an hour, which is Category 1 by the time we get through to Wednesday. That will be a Category 1 hurricane moving through the Azores by that point. And then it goes down to 75 miles per hour, 60 miles per hour as it goes post-tropical and moves northwards into the North Atlantic. By 120 hours, it's dissipated. And that will be the end of Lorenzo. But as I say, we may well get some very wet and windy weather from this area of low pressure at the end of week, around Thursday, possibly Friday. So more about that later in the video. These are the 500 millibar high anomaly flowcharts for Penn State University for the next week to 10 days. We've got the ECMWF on the top and the GFS is on the bottom. 500 millibars is an area in the absolute high pressure and low pressure are being moved around by the jet stream running above. Blue extrapolates to low pressure, orange and red to high pressure. So these are the mean flow charts for the 7 to 10 day time frame, taking us up to the 10th of October. We can see that the ECM has low pressure in the Atlantic, but is actually building up a ridge of high pressure now through the second week of October. So the ECM is trying to get us back into more anticyclonic conditions again, which will push the jet stream northwards and turn us drier. Not necessarily particularly warmer. In fact, by night it could be quite cold and the high pressure skies are clear, but definitely it's trending towards higher pressure into the second week of October. The GFS still looks quite unsettled. It is raising the heights somewhat to our south, so there's a ridge across France and down into Spain. The low pressure is deeper to our north and out into the Atlantic. The jet stream is doing something a little bit like that. So out of the two, the GFS is definitely the most unsettled, with a weaker and rather flimsier ridge of high pressure. But they are both hinting, perhaps, that higher pressure could start to get involved again as we go into the second week of October. And that's something that was showing up within our autumn forecast, of course. It was very much pointing towards a more anticyclonic autumn, particularly September and October. And whilst, of course, because it's autumn, we will get unsettled weather at times, you're not going to have 12 weeks of continuous high pressure. The idea was always that we would try and find our way back to high pressure quite quickly this autumn, with unsettled spells tending to be the exception rather than the rule, and that could be what's going on here, that we're trying to get back to high pressure once again. We shall have to see about that, but we did say November could do something slightly different. It might be continuously unsettled or possibly even a bit colder. These are the GFS upper air temperature and precipitation ensembles for the next couple of weeks. So looking at London today, the red line here is the 30-year upper air temperature average for London. Nothing particularly dramatic going on with the temperatures at the moment, so we're a little bit above average right now. We're going to go cooler than average around the middle of the week. There's going to be a drier interlude Wednesday, possibly lasting into Thursday, and that could involve the first air frost of the season up in the north anyway. Then we go through into the end of the week and the weekend and the early part of next week. Upper air temperatures just lift up a little bit. That's because we've got the remains of this hurricane in the Atlantic, of course, Lorenzo, which will increase the temperature a little bit at the end of the week and into the weekend. Then after that, through into the second week of October, that's this period just here, looks like, if anything, temperatures possibly drop a little bit, but again, not big deviations either way. It does look as though the next week or so is going to be quite close to average overall with the temperatures. Precipitation wise, quite unsettled. We've got plenty of rain coming up today and into tonight and through for the south anyway, through to tomorrow. A drier slot through the middle part of the week, just a slight drier interlude, then more unsettled at the end of the week and into next weekend, and possibly lasting into the week beyond. There's no real sign of the pronounced drying trend, I have to say, for the second week of October there. So you would expect to see these charts becoming or trending drier if we're going to build up high pressure again into the second week of October. At the moment, that looks quite unsettled, and it is for London, which is one of the drier places, of course. So we shall see about that anyway. Temperature anomalies from the 30th of September, last day of the month, of course, today through to the 8th of October, coming out very close to average. For England and Wales, it might be a little bit above average. For Scotland, it might be a little bit below average. They're not big deviations either way. Scandinavia looks quite cold. Most other parts of Europe looking quite mild. Precipitation anomalies average to wetter than average. It looks like it's going to be another pretty unsettled week coming up. Over in America, we see how the temperature anomaly is looking there. So most parts of the state, particularly southern and eastern areas, significantly warmer than average in the week ahead from the 30th of September to the 8th of October. But in the far north west of America, it's much, much colder there, very substantially cold average in this sort of northwestern corner. And there's been a lot of people have been noticing the massive snow event that's been taking place in some of these far northern states, particularly in the state of Montana and going back into Canada. there really has been some incredible snowfalls up there over this weekend. A very early but very significant winter snow event. Precipitation-wise for America, generally most parts of the states are looking pretty dry in the weekend from the 30th of September to the 8th of October. But through this central sway from this southern part of the states going up towards the Great Lakes and up towards the Midwest, it does look a little bit wetter through there. But on either side, it looks generally quite dry. Have a look at that snow over in America and Canada, shall we? So this is the radar from Gaz WeatherVid. So at the moment we've got heavy rain coming into Ireland, the extreme southwestern corner of England. That's going to get heavier and more widespread as it pushes northwards and eastwards through the course of today. But one thing that you can do with this is that you can see the rain or precipitation in other parts of the world. So for example, if I drag the map that way, you can see what's happening over on the continent, and it looks quite wet there, particularly across Germany. But let's go the other way. So we're going to sort of drag the map across the Atlantic Ocean. That blue expanse is, of course, the Atlantic Ocean. We've found land and we've found Newfoundland. So we're heading in towards the east coast of America and Canada. If we scroll down a little bit, we can see that we've got Washington there and the eastern seaboard of the United States. So let's carry on scrolling through there. Looks like there's some heavy rain and showers to the north of Minneapolis. We'll carry on scrolling though, and suddenly the green is starting to turn to blue. And blue on this radar is indicating snow. So where we've got these blue areas, we've got sort of snow showers going on. So there is some, at least some wintry showers through the state of Idaho, for example. Let's go northwards, and we've reached Montana. You can see there is still a little bit of snow left across Montana, but most of it is dying out now. Just light snowfalls, but of course they've got many inches. But if we go northwards, we can see that it is still snowing very heavily, actually, to the just to the east of Calgary and Edmonton. Got this big mass of blue just here, which is indicating outbreaks of persistent and heavy snow through these through this southern part of southwestern Canada. Moving over towards the Pacific coast of Canada, it looks a lot drier over there. So the snow has kind of receded back from Montana, but it's still snowing heavily in the southwestern part of Canada between Edmonton, or to the east of Edmonton, and Calgary. But the snow across Montana itself is beginning to die out, but there are still some snow flurries there we can see from those light blue colours, and down to Idaho as well, and also going down towards Salt Lake City. So we'll be keeping an eye on this, of course, over the next few weeks and months. There's going to be more snow appearing across initially Canada, North America and Northern Europe, but eventually, by the time we get through to winter, we may be able to use this to see whether it's snowing in the UK as well. We'll just have to wait and see whether we get much snow this winter or not. Right, so let's have a look at the weather for the next few days. Of course, we're going to concentrate initially on what's happening with Lorenzo. So this is the situation today. This next area of low pressure that we saw on the radar picture is bringing its rain into the southwestern part of the country. Heavy rain will be spreading northwards, eastwards across the UK through this afternoon and into this evening. There is Category 2 Hurricane Lorenzo just there to the west of the Azores. Now, as we move through the course of tonight and into tomorrow, Lorenzo gets closer to the Azores. We're under this area of low pressure, looking very wet indeed tonight and tomorrow. Then into the middle of the week, we get rid of that low pressure and we start to build this ridge down from the north, so it turns drier and colder. That's our drier, colder interlude for the middle of the week. There is Category 1 Hurricane Lorenzo just to the northwest of the Azores Islands. As we go through, of course, of Wednesday into Thursday, this area of low pressure starts to move very quickly northwards then. And, of course, it's post-tropical by this point. It's not a hurricane. It's a post-tropical area of low pressure. And this is how the situation is at 6 o'clock in the morning on Thursday. So below is just to the west of Ireland there. Still a very significant area of low pressure. It's not a hurricane, but it is still a very significant area of low pressure, bringing some strong winds, certainly up to gale force, possibly up to severe gale force, to to the west of Ireland. Where this low pressure goes, as I say, is causing all sorts of problems within the model output. This very latest GFS run sort of runs it into Ireland and Western Scotland during the course of Thursday. So this is 6 o'clock in the evening on Thursday. Severe gale force winds there are battering Ireland, particularly northern and western parts of Ireland. And very windy conditions getting into western Scotland. Elsewhere, the wind is getting up. It's pretty breezy, but the worst of the winds are wrapped around this low pressure just to the west of the country. Now, that low pressure does then move in across the country from Thursday night to Friday. So that will give us strong winds and heavy rain. The worst of the winds will be for Ireland, western Scotland, and probably Irish Sea coast. But again, the track of this low pressure is causing all sorts of problems. So you're just going to need to watch your space on how things develop into the second half of the week. That low pressure moves across the country from Friday, probably bringing quite a bit of wet weather with it, and into the weekend. We're having a go at building a bit of a ridge over Scandinavia, actually, as low pressure is still trying to come in from the Atlantic, but being blocked and sort of going on a northwest-southeast type trajectory. So the low is doing something a bit like that, going in that direction rather than going in its normal direction, which would be like that. And the reason that's happening is that high pressure is trying to get itself going over Scandinavia. Eventually, this particular GFS run does start to build up a ridge of high pressure as we get through to the early part of next week. But the Atlantic is still quite active, as we saw on the 500 millibar height anomaly. So any attempt at a ridge is quite quickly flattened off as more low pressure is just heading in from off the Atlantic Ocean. Turning wet and windy there again for Friday the 11th of October, a little bit beyond day 10. And into a more extended range, this particular GFS run keeps it very unsettled. This gets us right way to the middle of October. It gets us to Wednesday 16th of October. Still looking very unsettled really overall with this GFS run. The GM is looking like that. So there's the ex-Hurricane Lorenzo just there at midnight on Thursday. We're under a ridge of high pressure, bringing a drier but colder into the middle of the week. Now, the GM also moves this area of low pressure into the UK, containing the remains of Lorenzo from Thursday through to Friday. Difficult to say how bad the winds are as that low pressure arrives, because we can only go through this 24-hourly steps, I think. But it does look as though wet and windy weather coming in courtesy of the remains of Lorenzo at the end of week with GM. After that, into next weekend, there's that high pressure trying to get going over Scandinavia again. That's something that's just started appearing within the model output over the last day or so. I think this idea that we could start trying to build up a Scandinavian high around the weekend and into the early part of next week. So actually the GM by Monday has us under this Scandinavian high and bringing in the wind from an easterly direction. That could be quite a chilly easterly wind through the early part of next week. And then the high sort of collapses down over top of us, but it does sort of break us out of this unsettled weather. So the GM well and truly gets us back to high pressure sitting across the country. Probably relatively mild days with that, but nights could be a bit on the cold side. Of course, we'd have to watch out for mist and fog patches as well, given how late we are into the year now. And then the ECM is looking like that. So again, this is where Lorenzo is with the ECM, or the remains of Lorenzo is with the ECM on Thursday to the west and southwest of Ireland as we move through into Friday. Remember, only going in 24-hourly steps with this. The remains of Lorenzo just there. So the ECM just sort of gives us a glancing blow, really, from Lorenzo. Just keeps most of that low pressure. It is quite intense. There is severe gales wrapped around that low pressure. And it keeps most of that just out to the north and west of Ireland and western Scotland. But of course, any subtle movement eastwards, just something like that, a few 100 miles or so eastwards, and we're going to get a real battering, obviously, with such tightly packed ice bars. So as I say, this is what's causing all sorts of headaches for the professionals at the moment, trying to work out where this low pressure is going to hit exactly as it moves into our part of the Atlantic Ocean. Go through to Saturday and we can see what's happened. So we've got this main area of low pressure to the south of Greenland, and the remains of Lorenzo getting caught up with that sort of bigger area of low pressure, if you like. So it looks a very unsettled weather pattern as we get through to the end of the week and into next weekend, with strong winds and rain as certainly possible. That's Sunday, so there's the Scandinavian high trying to get itself going up there. That's blocking these areas of low pressure in the Atlantic, so the jet stream is beginning to start doing something a little bit like that. As we go through into next week, again, the idea is to start raising the heights both to the south and to the east of us, so some higher pressure is building there. Low pressure is out around Ireland. And as we get towards day 10, we're actually under a ridge of high pressure with the ECM as well. We saw that on the 500 millibar height anomaly, so high pressure is back in control by day 10, Thursday the 10th of October. We could be starting to see a transition towards high pressure here for the second week of October, but obviously the GFS was much more unsettled. These are the options on the table within the ECM ensembles today for day 10, which is the 10th of October. So we have got 20 members of the ECM ensembles with low pressure sitting over to the east of us, a ridge down to our south, so that's bringing in sort of a flat westerly wind. Then we've got 11 with high pressure to our south, low pressure is up to the north, and we're sort of bringing in a west-southwesterly with those. We've got 8 with a ridge of high pressure centred right over the country, but it does extend back towards a Scandinavian high. 7 with a trough of low pressure over the top of the UK, and then 5 with high pressure sitting to our south and low pressure out to the northwest. That sends a jet stream northwards. Most of those ensemble members seem to be moving towards some sort of influence of high pressure by day 10, but how strong and where exactly that high pressure is sitting remains to be seen. In 2 weeks' time, which gets us to the middle of October. Now, these are the options. We've got 19 members of the ECM ensembles with low pressure to our north and high pressure to our south. They're pretty flat and westerly. 10 with a ridge over the country. 8 with a trough, deep trough as well, over the country. They're unsettled. Another 8 with low pressure to the north, high pressure sitting over and just to the south of us, and then 6 still with a Scandinavian high, bringing in easterly winds. So it's to be determined really what's happening through the second week of October and up to the middle of the month. I think the trend is there to build in high pressure, but how strong that high pressure is, how long it lasts and where it's going to sit, I think there's a lot of uncertainty at the moment, as you would expect really, given that this is a bit of a pattern change that's just started appearing within model output in the last day or so. Finally, this is how the CFS is looking for the next 4 weeks. So these are 500 millibar heights broken down into week periods. The first week period takes us from the 30th of September to 6th of October. The coming week is unsettled. Low pressure will be over the country, out to our west and also to our east. We've got a blocking area of high pressure over Greenland and a ridge to our south. The jet stream is going through like that. It's going to be unsettled in the week ahead. We may get a hit. We may get a hit impact from the remains of Hurricane Lorenzo. Week 2 is the 7th to the 13th of October. No sign of high pressure with the CFS for this week. It's all low pressure all the way, really. There is a ridge down across Spain, but it looks like it's staying there. CFS is right back, just looks very unsettled up to the middle of October. Week 3 is looking unsettled as well. This is the 14th to 20th of October. This time, though, the below average heights are more over Scandinavia with blocking around Greenland. That could be a colder week. That could be bringing in the wind from a northerly, northwesterly, or possibly even northerly direction. So a colder week 3 there from the CFS. Dare I say, for the north of Scotland, maybe some wintry showers. And then for week 4, which is the 21st, 27th of October, above average heights close to Iceland to our northwest, below average heights to Scandinavia. That would be a pretty cool week as well, as that high pressure is building in, possibly more of a risk of frost perhaps as we go through there. Looks like it could be a rather cool and unsettled October this, if the CFS is right anyway. Temperature anomalies from the 30th of September to the 6th of October are rather below average. It looks like a relatively cool first week to October there. Week 2 is a bit warmer. This is the 7th to the 13th of October. The temperature anomaly then is a little bit above average. But week 3 then goes below average, and quite significantly so, actually. This is the 14th to the 20th of October. And especially for England and Wales, looks looks really quite chilly, you would say, maybe going down on the scale to like 2 degrees below average, 1 to 2 degrees below average anyway, so that looks pretty chilly. Week 4 looks like it's trying to stage a bit of a recovery with the temperature anomaly then. This is the 21st to 27th of October. It's really no better than average, but it looks like it's trying to stage a bit of a recovery. But this is a cooler month coming up if the CFS is right. That's the big if, of course. And then finally, precipitation. So rainfall anomaly is from the 30th of September to 6th of October, above average, a wetter than average week on the way. Week 2 from the 7th to the 13th of October is also above average with rainfall. Week 3, as we'll signal, is weakening, is going close to average. And then week 4, rounding it all off, again close to average. The signal is weakening. Notice it's driving average out to our west-northwest though. That's a high pressure sinking out of Iceland into the North Atlantic. So a rather cool October on the way, if the CFS is right. Quite unsettled at times as well, but at the moment all concerns and all eyes are on what's going to happen with the remains of Hurricane Lorenzo that is going to be pushing northwards out of the Azores in the second half of the week and might well give us a spell of really quite wet and windy weather, but the exact track on that low pressure is still to be pinned down, still to be determined. And so if you've got any interest or concerns about what weather may be doing on Thursday and Friday, then I would just suggest to keep an eye on the UK Met Office, keep an eye on the severe weather warnings page, and we shall see how things pan out. Right, that's it for your video for today. Tomorrow we'll have the ECMWF 30-day look ahead, and of course we'll have another week to 10-day video update, which will, I'm sure, concentrate on what's happening with the remains of Lorenzo again tomorrow. That's all for now, though, and thanks for watching.